The pills were exactly where I always kept them, top shelf, right side, behind the inhaler. Except this morning the shelf was empty. I stood there, hands still reaching, feeling the cool air where the bottle should have been. My lungs tightened immediately, that old familiar burn creeping up from deep inside my chest. 30 years since the Riverside Chemical fire, and my body still remembers every second of breathing superheated air while dragging Jake Morrison's body through collapsing steel. "Felix? Again?" Mallory's voice came from behind me, soft and measured. I turned to find her in the kitchen doorway, already dressed for the day in that perfect gray suit she wears when she wants to look concerned but professional. Her expression was carefully arranged, eyebrows slightly raised, lips pressed together in what was supposed to be sympathy. "The pills," I said. "They're not here." "Oh, Dad." Garrett appeared beside her, arms folding across his chest. My son looked at me the way you'd look at a dog that just peed on the carpet. "You moved them yesterday, remember? You put them in the bathroom cabinet." "I didn't move them." "You did." Mallory stepped closer, her heels clicking on the tile. "We watched you do it. You said something about wanting them closer to where you shower. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the hype button, and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this?" I stared at her. The words felt wrong, shaped like truth, but hollow underneath. "I've never kept medication near moisture. Basic sense. Any firefighter knows you protect your equipment, and when your equipment is what keeps you breathing, you don't take chances." "Check the bathroom," Garrett said, his voice taking on that edge of impatience he thinks I don't notice. "They're in there." I walked to the bathroom. Every step felt measured, deliberate. My hands weren't shaking. They never shake, not since I learned to control them during rescues when one tremor could mean someone else doesn't make it out. The cabinet mirror reflected my face back at me. 61 years old, gray hair cut military short, eyes that still track movement like I'm scanning for fire patterns. The pills were there, right on the second shelf next to Olivia's vitamins. But I didn't put them there. I grabbed the bottle, checked the label, counted the contents. Correct prescription, correct dosage. Nothing obviously wrong except the simple fact that I had not moved this bottle from the kitchen where I've kept it for 3 years. When I came back, they were both still in the kitchen, waiting. "Found them?" Mallory asked, and something in her tone made my spine straighten. "Yeah. Good." She smiled, and it didn't reach her eyes. "Felix, we need to talk about this. These little memory lapses, they're getting worse. We're worried about you." "I'm fine." "You're not fine." Garrett moved to block the doorway, not aggressively, just there. "You forgot where you put your medication. Last week you couldn't find your car keys. The week before that you lost that medical certificate from the governor's office." "I didn't lose it. It was misfiled." "By you," Mallory said gently, placing one hand on my shoulder. Her fingers were cold, even through my shirt. "Felix, we love you. We're not trying to upset you, but you're forgetting the most basic things, and we can't just stand by and watch you decline." That word. Decline. It hung in the air like smoke, spreading, filling spaces. "I appreciate the concern," I said, keeping my voice level, "but I'm managing fine." "Are you?" Garrett's question came out sharper than he probably intended. "Because Mom called yesterday and said you seemed confused on the phone. Your mother and I talked about the grocery list. There was nothing confusing about it. She said you asked her the same question 3 times. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. 34 years old, my only child, and I could see his mother's eyes in his face, that same blue-green that used to make me feel safe. But right now, those eyes were calculating something, measuring distances I couldn't quite name. "I'll talk to your mother about it," I said. Mallory's hand tightened slightly on my shoulder. "We've already talked to Olivia. She agrees that maybe it's time to consider some help. Just someone to check in, make sure you're taking your medication correctly, help you keep track of important things. A caretaker. An assistant," she corrected smoothly. "Someone to make life easier." I stepped away from her touch, moved toward the coffee maker. My hand stayed steady as I poured a cup, added the exact amount of cream I've used for 40 years. The routine was automatic, burned into muscle memory like checking air tanks or reading flame patterns. "I don't need an assistant." "Dad?" I said no. The silence that followed was different from normal quiet. It had weight, pressure, like the moment before a backdraft when all the oxygen gets sucked toward the coming explosion. Garrett and Mallory exchanged a look. Quick, but I caught it. The kind of look that says we'll talk about this later, the kind that happens between people who've already had conversations you weren't part of. "Okay," Mallory said finally, her voice still soft, still poisonously sweet. "We won't push. But Felix, if things keep happening, if you keep forgetting things or getting confused, we're going to have to step in for your own safety. She left first, Garrett following after one more weighted glance. I stood in the kitchen, listening to their car start, listening to the sound fade down the street. Then I took my medication, felt the familiar loosening in my chest as my airways relaxed, and I thought about that look they'd exchanged. That night, after Olivia came home from her book club, I told her about the morning. We were sitting on the back porch, her with her tea, me with my second cup of coffee. The yard was dark except for the motion sensor light by the garage, and somewhere down the street someone was playing music too loud. They said you told them I was confused on the phone, I said. Olivia set down her cup carefully. I never said that. You didn't call them about me? Felix. She turned to look at me directly, her face serious in the porch light. I haven't called Garrett in 2 weeks. We talked briefly when he phoned to ask about borrowing your truck, and I told him you were using it. That was the entire conversation. My coffee had gone cold. I drank it anyway. What's going on? Olivia asked. I don't know yet. But that wasn't quite true. I did know something. I knew the shape of it, the outline, like seeing smoke before you see flame. Something was building, and Garrett and Mallory were at the center, and I was the target. The question was why. I spent the next 3 days watching. Not obviously. I've spent 35 years learning to assess situations without being noticed, reading rooms the way I used to read fires. You don't survive a career in rescue work by missing details. Details like Garrett started coming by every day, usually with Mallory. Always with some excuse, dropping off groceries we didn't need, checking if we wanted help with yard work, asking if I'd remembered to pay various bills. Details like, twice I found things moved in my office. Small things. A notepad shifted from left side of the desk to right, a pen placed on top of papers instead of in the holder. Details like the mailman, Fred, who I've known for 8 years, suddenly asking if I was doing okay and mentioning that family had stopped him to express concerns. On the 4th day, I went to the pharmacy to refill my prescription. The tech who'd been helping me for 2 years, Jennifer, always efficient, always friendly, gave me an odd look when I approached the counter. Mr. Roeder, she said carefully, do you remember what you're here for? Prescription refill. Same as always. Right, of course. But she glanced at someone behind me, and when I turned, I saw Mallory standing near the vitamin aisle, phone in hand, watching. Jennifer printed out a pamphlet while processing my order. Just some information, she said quietly, about memory care resources. In case, you ever need it. I took the pamphlet, thanked her. Walked out past Mallory, who smiled and said she'd just stopped in to grab some aspirin. In the car, I sat for 5 minutes, engine off, staring at that pamphlet. Then I drove to Raymond Cole's house. Raymond lived in a small ranch-style place on the east side of town, the kind of neighborhood where people still left their garage doors open and kids rode bikes in the street. I'd saved his life once, pulled him out of a grain elevator fire when we were both younger and stupider. He'd returned the favor by being the one person I could trust when the department politics got ugly, when the medals came with strings attached, when being a hero meant more paperwork than rescues. He answered the door in a paint-stained t-shirt, holding a sandwich. Felix, this an official visit or a friendly one? Not sure yet. He studied my face, then stepped aside. Come on in. Fair warning, the place is a mess. Been working on the spare room? The living room smelled like paint and coffee. Raymond cleared newspapers off the couch and sat down across from me, sandwich forgotten. Talk to me. So I did. I laid out everything. The moved medication, the staged concern, the lies about phone calls, the pharmacy encounter, the careful way Mallory and Garrett coordinated their visits. I spoke precisely, keeping emotion out of it, presenting facts the way I'd learned to present fire reports. Raymond listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back and swore quietly. That's gaslighting, he said, and textbook manipulation. I've seen it before, had an aunt whose stepkids tried the same thing. Wanted her house? That's what I thought. Your house is worth what now? $300,000? $350, last appraisal. Plus you've got those medical benefits from the department. Long-term care coverage, medication stipend, that settlement from the chemical plant lawsuit. About $4,000 a month, total. Raymond whistled low. That's motive. Question is, what's their play? They can't just take your stuff. Power of attorney, I said. If they can convince people I'm mentally unfit, they can petition for emergency guardianship. I looked it up. Takes 2 doctors, testimony from family members, evidence of cognitive decline. Evidence they're manufacturing. Right. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then, you need proof. Real proof, not just your word against theirs. Because if they're already spreading rumors, if they're already building a narrative... He trailed off, but I understood. If they're already building a narrative, my word won't matter. The confused old man claiming his family is lying, nobody believes that story. I need to record them, I said. Get them talking about it. That's risky, and depending on the state laws, one-party consent state, I can record any conversation I'm part of. You're not planning on being part of the conversation, though, are you? I didn't answer. Raymond sighed. Felix, look, I get it. But breaking into their house? Not breaking in. I have a key. Garrett gave it to me last year, said it was for emergencies. That's still legally questionable. I know. We sat in silence. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, marking time. If I say don't do it, Raymond said finally, you're going to do it anyway. Probably. Then at least do it smart. You'll need a good recorder, voice-activated, long battery. I've got one from when I was doing the workers' comp investigation. And Felix? He waited until I met his eyes. Whatever you find, make copies. Multiple copies. Different locations, because if they figure out you're onto them, I'll be careful. You better be. I've already pulled you out of one fire. Rather not make a habit of it. I bought the recorder that afternoon at an electronics store 2 towns over where nobody knew me. Small enough to fit in a palm, voice-activated, 30-hour battery life. The clerk barely looked at me, just processed the sale and went back to his phone. That night, Olivia and I had dinner in silence. She knew something was happening. 33 years of marriage means you don't need words for everything. But she waited for me to speak first. I'm going to Garrett's tomorrow, I said over dessert. While they're at work. Why? To find out what they're planning. She set down her fork carefully. Felix, what exactly do you think they're planning? So I told her. All of it. The gaslighting, the rumors, the power of attorney angle. I watched her face as I spoke, saw the disbelief shift to understanding, then to something harder. They're trying to steal from us, she said quietly. From me, specifically. They need me declared incompetent. That's our son. I know. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you need me to do? Tomorrow afternoon, call Garrett. Keep him on the phone for at least 20 minutes. Ask about anything, his work, his plans, doesn't matter. Just keep him occupied. And if he asks why I'm calling? Tell him you're worried about me, that you've noticed things too, make him think he's winning. Olivia's mouth tightened, but she nodded. I don't like lying. Neither do I. But you're good at it when you need to be. That wasn't quite fair, but it wasn't quite wrong either. You learn a certain flexibility with truth when your job requires telling people their loved ones didn't make it out, when you have to manage grief and panic and keep everyone calm while the building burns around you. The next morning, I waited until 9:30. Garrett left for his real estate office at 8:45. I'd checked his social media the night before, seen him post about an early meeting. Mallory's PR firm was downtown, and she never got in before 10. I drove to their house slowly, checking mirrors, watching for any sign I was being followed or noticed. The neighborhood was quiet. Weekday morning, most people at work or school. Their house was a renovated craftsman-style place in the historic district, the kind of home that costs more than it should because of the address. Garrett had been making payments for 3 years, stretching himself thin. I'd seen the stress in his face last Christmas when he'd had too much wine and mentioned refinancing again. I used the key. The door opened smoothly, no alarm, they'd never bothered installing one, always said the neighborhood was safe. Inside, the house was pristine. Mallory kept everything coordinated. Gray walls, white trim, carefully chosen art pieces. It looked like a magazine spread, not like anyone actually lived there. I moved through the first floor quickly, scanning for anything obvious. Office was off the kitchen, Garrett's workspace, by the look of it. Messy desk, papers scattered, laptop closed. I checked my watch. 9:45. Olivia would call it 10. The bedroom was upstairs. Large, well-lit, same color scheme as the rest of the house. I felt wrong being there, invading their space, but I pushed that feeling down. They'd invaded mine first. They'd moved my medication, spread lies, built a narrative designed to destroy me. I planted the recorder under the bed, far back against the wall where it wouldn't be visible. Activated the voice sensor. Checked that it was working. My phone buzzed. Text from Olivia. About to call. I took one last look around, making sure I'd left everything exactly as I'd found it, then headed downstairs. As I reached the front door, I heard a car approaching. I froze. Engine noise growing louder, slowing, stopping right outside. Through the window, I saw Mallory's silver sedan parking in the driveway. The front door was 10 feet away. I could make it out, but she'd see me leaving. No way to explain my presence, not without giving away everything. I moved fast, heading back through the kitchen. The house had a side door leading to the garage. I'd seen it on my way through. If I could get out that way, circle around the back of the house to where my truck was parked a block over, keys jingling outside, the front door opening. I reached the garage door, turned the handle as quietly as possible. It opened into darkness, the automatic light stayed off. I slipped through, pulled it shut behind me just as I heard Mallory's footsteps in the kitchen. "No, I'm home," she was saying, voice muted through the door. Phone call. "I forgot the presentation materials. Give me 5 minutes." I stood in the dark garage, breathing carefully. My lungs felt tight, but I didn't take my medication. The sound of the bottle shaking would carry. The space smelled like motor oil and cardboard boxes. I could make out the outline of Garrett's car, some storage shelves, a workbench, footsteps overhead. She'd gone upstairs. I moved toward the garage door, the big one that opened to the driveway. Found the manual release, pulled it slowly. The door rose a few feet, enough for me to duck under. Morning light spilled in. I rolled out, came up in a crouch, and moved quickly along the side of the garage. The neighbor's fence provided cover. I kept low, moving toward the backyard. Behind me, I heard Mallory's voice again, still on the phone. "Found them. Heading back now." I cleared the fence line, cut through the neighbor's yard. Older couple, their car was gone, probably at work or shopping. Made it to the next street over, walked calmly to where I'd parked my truck. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. Heart rate elevated, but controlled. I'd felt this before, that sharp focus that comes with near misses, with situations that almost go wrong, but don't. I drove home carefully, staying under the speed limit, checking mirrors. At the house, Olivia met me at the door. "How did it go?" "Close. Too close. But I got the recorder in place." "And now?" "Now we wait." The waiting was harder than the action. I spent the afternoon trying to act normal, reading the newspaper, checking email, doing the small maintenance tasks that fill retired life. But my attention kept drifting to the clock, calculating how long before Garrett and Mallory got home, before they had a conversation I might need to hear. At 4:30, my phone rang. Garrett. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. How are you feeling today?" "Fine." Good. Listen, we want to come by tomorrow morning. Bring some breakfast, spend some time with you and Mom. That work?" "Sure." "Great. Oh, and Dad, have you given any more thought to what we talked about? About getting some help around the house?" "I'm managing fine, Garrett." A pause. Then, "Okay, we'll talk more tomorrow. Love you." He hung up before I could respond. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed listening to Olivia's breathing, the house settling, the distant sound of traffic. My mind ran through scenarios, possibilities, outcomes. What would they say? What was I hoping to hear? Proof of what I already knew, or something worse? At 2:15, I got up. Went downstairs, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table in the dark. I thought about Garrett as a kid, 8 years old, standing in the fire station, eyes wide as I showed him the trucks. The way he'd insisted on wearing my old helmet, too big for his head, sliding down over his eyes. How proud he'd been when I let him ring the bell. When did it change? When did my son start seeing me as an obstacle instead of a father? Or maybe he'd always seen me that way. Maybe I'd just been too busy, too focused on work, on rescues, on being the hero for everyone except him. The coffee tasted bitter. I drank it anyway. Morning came slowly. Olivia found me still at the table at 6. "You didn't sleep?" "No." She didn't say anything else, just started making breakfast. We ate in silence, the food tasting like ash in my mouth. At 8:30, Garrett and Mallory arrived with pastries from the expensive bakery downtown, the kind that cost twice what they should because they use organic flour and imported butter. We sat in the living room, making small talk. Garrett asked about the yard work, about whether we'd thought about updating the kitchen. Mallory complimented Olivia's sweater, asked about her book club. All of it felt like performance, staged. "So," Garrett said eventually, setting down his coffee cup, "we wanted to talk about the future, about making sure you guys are taken care of." "We're fine," I said. "You are now. But Dad, you're 61. Things change. Health issues come up. We just want to make sure everything's in order." "What kind of order?" Mallory leaned forward, her expression carefully concerned. "Legal order, powers of attorney, medical directives, that kind of thing. Just in case something happens and you need someone to make decisions." "If something happens, Olivia makes decisions." "Of course," Mallory said smoothly. "But what if something happens to both of you? Or what if Olivia needs help? These are important questions, Felix. Garrett pulled out some papers from his bag. We had our attorney draw up some basic documents. Nothing complicated. Just gives us the ability to help if you need it. I looked at the papers. They were thick, multiple pages, dense legal text. I'll need time to read these. Sure, no rush. Well, Garrett glanced at Mallory. Some rush. The attorney said it's better to get these filed sooner rather than later, tax purposes and all that. Tax purposes. And legal clarity. You know how the state is about this stuff. I set the papers aside. I'll look them over. When? The question came out too quick, too sharp. Garrett tried to soften it with a smile, but I'd heard the edge. When I have time. Another look between them. That same weighted glance, full of unspoken conversation. Okay, Mallory said, standing smoothly. We should get going. But Felix, please don't wait too long. These things are important. After they left, I picked up the papers, started reading. The language was dense, deliberately confusing, but the core was clear enough. I would be signing over power of attorney to Garrett for all financial and medical decisions, effective immediately, not upon incapacitation, complete control. This isn't a safety measure, I told Olivia. This is a takeover. She read over my shoulder, her face hardening. Can they force this? Not unless they can prove I'm incompetent. Which they're trying to do. Right. I needed that recording, needed to hear what they said when they thought nobody was listening. That evening, I drove back to their neighborhood, parked in a different spot, 3 blocks away, walked casually like I belonged there. Their house was dark except for the bedroom window upstairs. I could see shadows moving, hear faint voices. I waited across the street, hidden by a large oak tree, watching. After an hour, the bedroom light went off. I gave it another 30 minutes, then moved carefully to their side gate. It was unlocked, sloppy security, but it worked in my favor. Slipped into the backyard, found the basement window I'd noticed earlier. It was locked, but the frame was old. I used my pocket knife to work the latch, moving slowly, patiently. The same way I'd taught trainees to open doors in burning buildings. Steady pressure, no panic. The window slid open. I lowered myself through, dropped quietly into the basement. Dark, silent. The furnace hummed softly in the corner. I found the stairs, moved up carefully. Each step creaked slightly under my weight. I paused between steps, listening for any sign they'd heard. At the top, I eased the door open. The house was dark, quiet. Upstairs, I could hear the faint sound of someone snoring. I moved through the first floor to the kitchen, to the garage door, ready to make a quick exit if needed. Then I stopped. On the kitchen counter, barely visible in the dim light from the street lamp outside, I saw papers. A folder, left open. I crossed to it, looked down. Medical reports, doctors' assessments, all about me, except I'd never seen these doctors. Never been to these appointments. The reports described progressive memory loss, confusion, difficulty with basic tasks, recommended immediate evaluation for early-stage dementia, suggested family intervention. They were fake, all of it, manufactured evidence. My hands clenched. The papers crumpled slightly under my grip. A sound upstairs. Footsteps. I froze. The footsteps moved across the bedroom floor directly above me. Bathroom, probably. I heard water running through the pipes. I stood in the dark kitchen, medical papers in my hands, calculating distances. 20 feet to the garage door, another 10 to the side exit. If they came downstairs, if they found me here. The water shut off. Footsteps returning to the bedroom. Mattress springs creaking. I waited a full 5 minutes before moving. Set the papers down exactly as I'd found them, every page in the same position. Then crossed to the garage door, slipped through, closed it silently behind me. In the garage, I moved to the workbench, found a small screwdriver, went back inside, up the stairs, moving like smoke. The bedroom door was closed. The snoring had resumed. Garrett, from the sound of it. I knelt beside the bed, reached underneath, found the recorder. It was still there, still running. The indicator light blinked green once. Battery good. I grabbed it, pocketed it, and got out. The walk back to my truck felt longer than it should have. Every car that passed seemed suspicious. Every lit window felt like an eye watching, but nobody stopped me, nobody shouted. I was just an old man taking a late walk. At home, I sat at the kitchen table again. Same spot as the night before. Plugged the recorder into my laptop and started listening. The first hour was nothing. Background noise, TV sounds, normal evening conversation about work and schedules and what to have for dinner. Then, around 10:30 their time, their voices changed, became clearer. They'd gone to the bedroom, closed the door. How long do we keep this up? Garrett's voice frustrated. He won't sign anything. He will. Mallory, calm and certain. We just need to push harder. The pharmacy thing worked. Jennifer told me 3 people asked about him after he left, and Fred at the post office is spreading it around his route. What about the doctor's reports? Already filed with the county. If he tries to fight this, we have documentation from 3 separate physicians. I made sure they're all out of state, nobody he could accidentally run into. And if he finds out? He won't. Felix is smart, but he's also proud. He won't believe his own son would do this to him. By the time he figures it out, we'll have legal control. A pause. Then Garrett. You're sure about the timeline? 6 weeks, maybe 8. We need to stage a few more incidents. Public ones where witnesses see him confused or disoriented. I'm thinking the grocery store, maybe the bank. Then we file the emergency petition. With your mother backing us. She won't. She will if we frame it right. If we tell her we're protecting him, protecting their assets, keeping him safe. Olivia loves him. She'll believe we're trying to help. And the house? Once we have power of attorney, we liquidate everything. The house is worth $350, plus his benefits are $4,000 a month. We can put him in a care facility for half that, pocket the difference. Within a year, maybe 2, we'll have enough to pay off our mortgage and fund the business expansion. Garrett's laugh was bitter. My hero father. Finally good for something. I stopped the recording, sat in the dark, hands flat on the table, breathing carefully. Finally good for something. The words echoed in my head, mixing with memories. Teaching Garrett to ride a bike, helping him with homework, attending every school event, every graduation, every milestone, pulling extra shifts to pay for his college, co-signing his first car loan, being there, finally good for something. I started the recording again, listened to the rest. They talked for another 20 minutes, planning details, how to stage the incidents, which witnesses would be most credible, how to time the petition filing. Mallory had thought of everything. She was good at her job, and her job was manipulating perception. What if he fights it? Garrett asked at one point. With what? We'll have medical records, witness testimony, and family concern. He'll just look paranoid and confused. Classic symptom of cognitive decline. Believing people are conspiring against you. They laughed. Both of them. The recording continued for another hour. Them watching TV, getting ready for bed, the eventual silence of sleep. I copied the files to 3 different flash drives. Put one in my safe deposit box at the bank, one in Raymond's mailbox with a note, one in a sealed envelope addressed to my attorney. Then I sat down and made a plan. The next morning, Olivia found me in my office, surrounded by papers. What's all this? Documentation. Every interaction with Garrett and Mallory for the past 6 months. Dates, times, what was said, plus the recording, the fake medical reports, the timeline from their conversation. She looked at the organized chaos on my desk. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. Felix, I know what I want to do. I want to walk over there and... I stopped, breathed. But that won't fix anything. It'll just make me look violent and unstable, which is exactly what they need. So what then? I need to think like they do, strategically, long term. I looked up at her. They want to control the narrative. Fine, I'll give them a narrative. I don't understand. I'm going to let them think they're winning. I'm going to act confused, forgetful, exactly what they want to see. Let them get comfortable. Let them get sloppy. That's dangerous. Not as dangerous as letting them succeed. Olivia was quiet for a moment. Then, how can I help? I spent the next 2 days acting. Small things at first, asking what day it was, repeating questions I'd already asked, seeming distracted during conversations. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to be noticed. The effect was immediate. Garrett called more often, his voice full of false concern. Mallory started documenting things. I saw her taking photos when she thought I wasn't looking, recording our conversations on her phone. Good. Let them document. Let them build their case. Meanwhile, I built mine. Raymond helped me track down the 3 doctors whose names appeared on the fake reports. One was retired, one had moved to Oregon, one had never practiced in our state. All confirmed they'd never evaluated me, never written those reports. I got statements, signed, notarized, dated. I also started tracking Garrett's finances. Public records showed he'd refinanced twice in 2 years. Credit card debt in the high 5 figures. A business loan that was coming due in 6 months. He was drowning, and my assets were the life preserver. The pieces were falling into place. But I still needed the right moment, the right way to use them. That moment came 2 weeks later. Garrett called on a Tuesday morning. Dad, we need to talk. Can Mallory and I come by this afternoon? Sure. Bring Mom too. We need her there for this. I agreed, hung up, called Raymond. It's happening, I said. They're making their move. You ready? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That afternoon, Garrett and Mallory arrived with their attorney, a sharp-eyed woman in an expensive suit who smiled without warmth. We sat in the living room, all of us, the tension thick enough to choke on. The attorney spoke first. Mr. Roeder, Mrs. Roeder, thank you for meeting with us. We're here because your family is concerned about your welfare, particularly regarding some cognitive issues that have been observed over the past several months. What cognitive issues? Olivia's voice was sharp. Memory lapses, confusion, difficulty managing daily tasks. We have documentation from multiple sources, including medical professionals, that suggest Felix may be experiencing early-stage dementia. That's not true, I said. Dad? Garrett leaned forward, his face arranged in sympathy. We're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to help. But you need to understand, you're not okay. You're getting worse, and we can't just stand by and watch you decline without doing something. What kind of something? Olivia asked. The attorney produced papers. We're filing for emergency guardianship. It's a legal process that will allow Garrett and Mallory to make medical and financial decisions on Felix's behalf, ensuring he receives proper care and his assets are properly managed. You mean stolen, I said quietly. The room went silent. Garrett's face flushed. That's exactly the kind of paranoid thinking we're talking about. Dad, nobody's trying to steal anything. We're trying to protect you. From what? From yourself. Mallory's voice was soft, cutting. Felix, you're unwell. You don't see it, but everyone else does. Your neighbors, your pharmacist, your friends. They've all noticed. We're not inventing this. The attorney nodded. We have witness statements prepared, multiple individuals willing to testify to observed incidents of confusion and memory loss. Willing, I repeated, or coached. Mr. Roeder, I understand this is difficult to accept, but the medical evidence is clear. 3 separate physicians have evaluated you and reached the same conclusion. I've never seen any of those doctors. You have. You just don't remember. It was a perfect trap. Deny the evaluations? That's proof of memory loss. Remember something different? That's proof of confusion. Every word I said would be twisted, reinterpreted, used against me. I looked at my son, really looked at him, tried to find some trace of the boy who'd worn my helmet, who'd ridden on my shoulders, who'd called me his hero. All I saw was a stranger wearing Garrett's face. If you do this, I said carefully, there's no coming back from it. You understand that? There's nothing to come back from, Garrett said. This is about your health, your safety. Once you're getting proper care, once things are stabilized, you'll understand we did the right thing. Olivia stood up. Get out. They all looked at her. Get out of my house. Now. Mrs. Roeder, the attorney began. You're not filing anything. Felix is perfectly healthy, mentally and physically, and if you try to push this fraud, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you're doing. Mallory stood smoothly. Olivia, I know you're upset, but you're not thinking clearly. Felix needs help, and you need help managing his care. Let us do this. Let us take this burden off your shoulders. The only burden, Olivia said, her voice like ice, is you. Garrett looked at me one more time. Dad, please, sign the papers. Make this easy. No. Then we'll do it the hard way. He stood, collected the documents. We're filing the petition tomorrow. The hearing will be within 2 weeks, and when the judge sees all the evidence, all the documentation, all the witness statements, you'll lose. You'll lose everything. They left. The attorney gave us a business card, said something about being available for questions. Then they were gone. Olivia and I sat in the silence they'd left behind. We need a lawyer, she said finally. No, we need something better. I pulled out my phone, found the business card I'd been carrying for 3 years. Lisa Harrow was a journalist for one of the major networks, someone who'd been trying to interview me since the Riverside Chemical fire. She'd called every year on the anniversary, sent letters, left messages. Always the same pitch. America needs to hear your story. I'd always said no, until now. She answered on the second ring. Lisa Harrow. Ms. Harrow, this is Felix Roeder. A pause. Then, Mr. Roeder, I'm surprised. You still want that interview? Yes, absolutely. Friday night. Prime time. Can you arrange it? That's 6 days. These things take time. You have 6 days. Or I find another journalist? I could hear her thinking, calculating. What's the angle? You'll find out when America does. I hung up. Olivia stared at me. Felix, what are you doing? Taking control of my own story. The next 6 days moved fast. Lisa's crew arrived Wednesday for preliminary footage. They filmed the house, my medals, my commendations. Lisa showed up Thursday, asking questions, getting context. I gave her some of it. Not all. The full reveal would come during the live broadcast. Garrett filed the guardianship petition Thursday. The hearing was scheduled for Tuesday, 3 days after the interview. Perfect timing. Friday morning, Raymond came by. "You sure about this?" he asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "Once you go public, there's no taking it back." "It's already too late to take anything back," he nodded. Left me alone to prepare. The broadcast was scheduled for 8 p.m. The network had been promoting it all week. Hero firefighter breaks decades of silence. Garrett called at 3. "Dad, what's this interview about?" "You'll see. If you say something crazy, it'll just prove our case." "Then you have nothing to worry about." I hung up. At 7:30, the crew finished setting up. Lisa sat across from me, professional, focused. The cameras were positioned, the lights were bright and hot. "We go live in 20 minutes, she said. "Are you ready?" I thought about Garrett's voice on that recording. Finally, good for something. "I'm ready." The red light came on. We were live. Lisa started with the basics. My background, my career, the Riverside Chemical fire. Standard hero narrative, the kind people expect. She asked about the rescue, about pulling Jake Morrison's body through the flames, about the medals. I answered calmly, precisely. Let her build the story. Then she shifted. "Felix, you've avoided interviews for 30 years. Why speak out now?" This was it. "Because my son is trying to steal everything I have." The studio went silent. I could see Lisa's eyes widen slightly, but she recovered fast. Professional. "That's a serious accusation. It's a serious crime." I pulled out the folder. "My son Garrett and his wife Mallory have spent the past 6 months trying to convince everyone, neighbors, pharmacists, doctors, that I'm mentally incompetent. They've manufactured evidence, created fake medical reports, and coached witnesses, all so they can gain legal control over my assets." "Why would they do that?" "Because Garrett is drowning in debt, because my house is worth $350,000, because I receive $4,000 a month in medical benefits and settlement payments, because I'm finally good for something." I said those last words exactly the way Garrett had on the recording. Lisa leaned forward. "You have proof of this?" "Yes." I handed her the flash drive. She looked at it, then at her producer off camera. He nodded. "We're going to play some audio now," Lisa said to the camera. "What you're about to hear is a private conversation between Garrett Roeder and his wife Mallory, recorded in their home." The audio played. Clear, undeniable. Garrett's voice. "How long do we keep this up?" Mallory's response. "We just need to push harder." Their entire plan, laid out in their own words, the fake medical reports, the staged incidents, the timeline for filing the guardianship petition, and that final line, "My hero father, finally good for something." When it finished, Lisa looked at the camera. "Felix, what do you want people to know?" That elder manipulation is real, that it happens in families that look normal from the outside, that being a hero doesn't protect you from your own children. What happens next? There's a hearing scheduled for Tuesday. Garrett and Mallory will present their case. But now the judge will hear this too. Now everyone will. Lisa turned to the camera. We reached out to Garrett Roeder and Mallory Roeder for comment. They declined to respond. We also attempted to verify the medical reports Felix mentioned. All 3 doctors listed deny ever evaluating Felix Roeder. She turned back to me. "One final question. After everything, do you regret having children?" I thought about that. About 8-year-old Garrett in my fire helmet. About the son I thought I knew. I regret not seeing who he really was. The interview ended. The red light went off. Lisa sat back. "That was intense." "Good. Your phone is going to explode." She was right. By the time I got home, I had 67 missed calls. Texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Emails flooding in, and 1 voicemail from Garrett. "You just destroyed everything. I hope you're happy." I deleted it. Olivia was waiting in the living room, her face pale. "It's done," I said. "I know." I watched. And I'm terrified of what happens next. What happened next came fast. Saturday morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Unknown number. "Mr. Roeder, this is Judge Patricia Vance. I'm presiding over the guardianship hearing scheduled for Tuesday." I sat up straight. "Yes, Your Honor. I watched your interview last night. I need you to bring all evidence to my chambers Monday morning, 9 a.m. Not the courtroom, my private chambers. I'll be there. And Mr. Roeder, bring your attorney. I don't have one yet. A pause. Then get one. Today. She hung up. By noon, 3 law firms had called offering representation. By 2 p.m., I'd hired one, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, who specialized in elder fraud cases. This is cut and dry, she said after reviewing my evidence. They're going to prison. I don't want prison. I want them gone. You might not have a choice. The DA's office will likely file charges once this becomes official. Sunday was quiet. Too quiet. No calls from Garrett, no angry confrontations, just silence. It felt wrong. Monday morning, I arrived at the courthouse at 8:45. Patricia met me outside. Ready? Yes. Judge Vance's chambers were wood-paneled and book-lined. She sat behind a massive desk, reading something on her computer. Mr. Roeder, counselor, sit. We sat. I've reviewed the audio recording, the judge said. I've also contacted the 3 physicians listed on the medical reports. All 3 confirmed they never evaluated you, never wrote these reports, and never authorized their names to be used. What does that mean for the hearing? Patricia asked. There won't be a hearing. The petition is dismissed with prejudice. Additionally, I'm referring this matter to the DA's office for investigation of fraud, forgery, and attempted exploitation of a vulnerable adult. He's not vulnerable, Patricia said quickly. Legally, anyone over 60 qualifies, which means the penalties are enhanced. Judge Vance looked at me. Mr. Roeder, do you want to press charges? I thought about Garrett, about finally good for something. Yes? Then it's out of your hands now. The state will prosecute. We left the courthouse at 10 a.m. By 11, the story had broken nationally. News websites picked up the interview footage. Social media exploded. People were calling Garrett and Mallory monsters, demanding justice, sharing their own stories of family manipulation. By Tuesday morning, reporters were camped outside Garrett's house. I watched the coverage from home, saw Mallory try to leave for work, surrounded by cameras, shouting no comment, as she pushed through the crowd. Saw Garrett's office put out a statement, Mr. Roeder has stepped down from his position effective immediately. Saw their attorney, that sharp-eyed woman, announce she was withdrawing from representation. Wednesday afternoon, my doorbell rang. It was Garrett. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes red, clothes wrinkled. Dad, please, can we talk? No. I'm sorry, I know I messed up, but you tried to steal my life. I was desperate. The debt, the pressure, Mallory kept saying. He stopped. That's not an excuse. I know it's not. But Dad, please, don't let them charge us. Talk to the DA. You can make this go away. Why would I do that? Because I'm your son. I looked at him. Really looked. Tried to find something worth saving. You stopped being my son the moment you decided I was finally good for something. His face crumpled. You heard that. I heard everything. Dad, leave. Don't come back. He stood there for another moment, then turned and walked away. I closed the door. Olivia appeared from the kitchen. Are you okay? No, but I will be. The DA's office filed charges Thursday. 6 counts of fraud, 3 counts of forgery, 1 count of attempted exploitation, 1 count of conspiracy. Garrett and Mallory were arrested Friday morning. Their bail was set at $50,000 each. They couldn't make it. The trial was scheduled for 3 months out. I didn't have to do anything except wait and let the system work. But the story kept growing. National media ran features about elder fraud. Lawmakers talked about strengthening protections. Support groups reached out asking me to speak. I said yes to some, no to others. Raymond came by one afternoon in late October. You're famous, he said. I'm notorious. Same thing these days. He handed me a beer. How are you really doing? I don't know. Some days I feel vindicated. Other days I just feel sad. That's normal. He was your son. He was. We sat in silence for a while. The DA called, I said eventually. They want me to testify, make the case personal for the jury. Will you? Yes, they need to hear it from me. The preliminary hearing happened in November. I sat in the courtroom and watched Garrett and Mallory enter in orange jumpsuits, hands cuffed. Mallory looked defiant. Garrett looked broken. The judge reviewed the evidence, the fake medical reports, the recordings, the witness statements from doctors, the financial records showing motive. The state has presented overwhelming evidence of fraud and exploitation, the judge said. This case will proceed to trial. Their new attorney, court-appointed, overworked, asked for bail reduction. These are not violent offenders, Your Honor. They have ties to the community. They systematically attempted to steal from a decorated firefighter who risked his life for this community, the judge replied. Bail stands. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded me. Mr. Roeder, how do you feel? Do you think your son will be convicted? What do you want to say to other families dealing with this? I stopped, looked at the cameras. If someone in your family is trying to convince you that you're confused, that you're declining, that you need help you don't actually need, trust your instincts. Document everything, and don't be afraid to fight back. The clip went viral. December came cold and gray. The trial date was set for January 15th. Garrett's attorney reached out through Patricia, asking if I'd be willing to accept a plea deal, reduce charges in exchange for guilty pleas. What do you think? I asked Patricia. The evidence is solid. We'll win at trial, but trials are unpredictable. A plea guarantees consequences. What would they serve? Probably 2 to 3 years. Maybe less with good behavior. I thought about it for 2 days, then told Patricia, no deal. Let the jury decide. Christmas was strange. Olivia and I spent it alone, no family, no traditions. Just the two of us, and too much quiet. Do you miss him? She asked on Christmas Eve. I miss who I thought he was. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. New Year came and went. January arrived with snow and ice. On January 14th, the night before trial, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed, thinking about what I'd say on the stand, how I'd tell the story, whether my voice would stay steady. At 3 a.m., I got up, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table. My phone buzzed. Text from Raymond. You got this. I smiled. Typed back, thanks. Morning came slowly. I dressed carefully, suit and tie, the same outfit I'd worn for medal ceremonies. Professional, respectable, credible. Patricia picked me up at 8. Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be. The courthouse was packed. Media everywhere. Curious citizens, legal observers. The gallery was standing room only. I took my seat behind the prosecution table. Garrett and Mallory were let in. Garrett glanced at me once, then looked away. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Please be seated. We'll begin with opening statements. The prosecutor stood. Young guy, maybe 30, but sharp. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a case about betrayal. About a son who looked at his father and saw not family but opportunity. About a daughter-in-law who turned manipulation into a business plan. About 2 people who tried to steal everything from a man who gave everything to his community. He laid out the case. The fake medical reports, the staged incidents, the recordings, the financial motive. Felix Roeder survived a fire that should have ended his life. He saved colleagues. He earned medals. He built a good life despite permanent injuries, and his son tried to take it all away. Then Garrett's attorney stood. My clients made mistakes, serious mistakes. But this was not a calculated fraud. This was a family struggling with legitimate concerns about an aging parent, making poor decisions under stress and financial pressure. Yes, they went too far. Yes, they broke the law, but this was not the cold, calculated scheme the prosecution describes. I listened to him reframe everything, make Garrett and Mallory sound like victims of circumstance. Then the prosecutor called his first witness, me. I walked to the stand, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor approached. Mr. Roeder, please tell the jury about your career. I did. 35 years as a firefighter, the Riverside Chemical fire, the injuries, the medals, the benefits. And when did you first notice something was wrong with your son's behavior? When my medication went missing. I walked them through it. The staged forgetfulness, the fake doctor reports, the recording, Garrett's words echoing in the courtroom. Finally good for something. Several jurors winced. How did that make you feel? The prosecutor asked. Like I'd failed as a father. Why? Because I raised someone who could say that about me. The prosecutor nodded. No further questions. Garrett's attorney stood for cross-examination. Mr. Roeder, isn't it true that you do have respiratory problems? Yes. And you do take daily medication? Yes. And isn't it possible that you did move that medication and simply forgot? No, I have a routine. I don't break routines. But memory can be fallible. My memory is fine. Yet you claim 3 doctors evaluated you without your knowledge. Isn't it possible you simply forgot those appointments? I never had those appointments. The doctors confirmed that. He shifted tactics. Your son was under significant financial stress, correct? Yes. And he came to you for help? He came to steal from me. There's a difference. Objection, the attorney said quickly. Characterization. Sustained, the judge said. The attorney tried a few more angles, but nothing stuck. The evidence was too solid. Other witnesses followed. The doctors denying the reports, Raymond testifying about my mental clarity, neighbors who'd been approached by Mallory to spread rumors. The pharmacist, Jennifer, testified about the pamphlet she'd given me. Mrs. Roeder asked me to do it, she admitted. She said Felix was declining and needed gentle reminders. Mallory's attorney tried to spin it as concern, but Jennifer's testimony was damning. On day 3, they played the recording for the jury. Garrett and Mallory's voices filled the courtroom, their plan laid out in perfect detail. When it finished, the silence was absolute. The defense rested without calling Garrett or Mallory. Too risky. Anything they said would only make it worse. Closing arguments came on day 4. The prosecutor was brief. You heard them, in their own words, planning to steal from Felix Roeder, planning to control his life, planning to profit from manufactured mental decline. The evidence is clear. The verdict should be too. Garrett's attorney made one last attempt. My clients are not monsters. They're people who made terrible choices under terrible circumstances. Yes, they broke the law, but consider their intent. Consider the context. Consider mercy. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. On the charge of fraud in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of forgery? Guilty. All counts. Both defendants. Garrett's face went white. Mallory closed her eyes. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks out. Outside, reporters swarmed again. Mr. Roeder, how do you feel about the verdict? I stopped. Looked at the cameras. I feel like justice was done. What do you want to happen at sentencing? I want them to understand what they tried to take, not just money or property, my dignity, my autonomy, my right to control my own life. Do you forgive them? I thought about that, about Garrett as a boy, about finally good for something. No. I walked away. Sentencing day arrived cold and clear. I drove to the courthouse alone. Olivia stayed home, unable to watch anymore. The courtroom was less packed this time, fewer reporters, just the necessary people. Garrett and Mallory were let in. They looked smaller somehow, diminished. The judge reviewed the pre-sentencing reports, then looked at me. Mr. Roeder, you have the right to make a victim impact statement. Do you wish to address the court? Yes, Your Honor. I stood, walked to the podium, faced Garrett directly. I taught you to be honest, to work hard, to help people. And you took those lessons and decided they didn't apply when it came to me. You looked at your father and saw an obstacle, a resource, something finally good for something. Garrett's eyes filled. He didn't look away. You tried to take everything, my house, my money, my independence, my mind. You wanted people to think I was losing clarity so you could control me, but the only person who lost clarity was you. You lost sight of what family means, what honor means, what being a decent human means. I paused. Let that sink in. I survived a fire that should have ended me. I pulled colleagues from flames. I earned every medal, every benefit, every piece of recognition through sacrifice and pain. And you thought you could just take it because I was old and vulnerable and you needed money. The courtroom was silent. I don't forgive you. I don't want your apology. I want you to understand that actions have consequences, that betrayal leaves scars, that some things can't be fixed. I looked at the judge. That's all, Your Honor. I sat down. The judge turned to Garrett and Mallory. Do either of you wish to speak? Garrett stood slowly. His voice cracked. Dad, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but... It's not, I said. The judge held up a hand. Mr. Roeder, you've made your statement? Garrett continued. I was desperate. Stupid. I convinced myself I was helping, that once we controlled things, it would be better. But I was lying to myself. And I destroyed everything. He sat down. Mallory said nothing. The judge reviewed her notes, then spoke. This court has rarely seen such calculated betrayal. You targeted a vulnerable adult, a decorated hero who served his community with distinction. You manufactured evidence, corrupted medical professionals' names, coached witnesses, and planned systematic theft. The pre-sentencing report recommends leniency due to your lack of prior criminal history. I disagree. She looked at Garrett. You are sentenced to 5 years in state prison, followed by 3 years supervised probation. You are ordered to pay full restitution for all legal fees and costs incurred by your father. Garrett's face crumpled. Mallory Roeder, as the primary architect of this scheme, you received 6 years in state prison, followed by 5 years supervised probation with the same restitution requirements. Mallory's composure finally broke. She started crying. Additionally, the judge continued, you are both permanently prohibited from any contact with Felix or Olivia Roeder. Permanent restraining orders will be filed today. If you violate these orders upon release, you will return to prison. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, they both whispered. Then this court is adjourned. The gavel fell. Guards moved forward, put handcuffs on Garrett and Mallory, led them toward the side door. Garrett looked back at me one last time. I stared at him, expressionless, final. The door closed behind them. I stood, walked out of the courtroom, down the corridor, through the front doors into winter sunlight. Reporters surrounded me immediately. Mr. Roeder, how do you feel about the sentence? Do you think justice was served? What's next for you? I stopped on the courthouse steps, looked at the cameras, all of America watching again. My son tried to burn down everything I built. My reputation, my independence, my life. He wanted to control me, to profit from my decline, to make me finally good for something. I paused. Let the words land. So I did what firefighters do. I fought back. I documented everything. I exposed the truth, and I let the system work. What do you want people to remember about this case? I thought about the pills on the empty shelf, about Mallory's poisoned sympathy, about that recording playing in the dark, that you're never too old to fight for yourself. That family doesn't give anyone the right to steal your life, that sometimes the only way to stop the fire is to light one of your own. I looked directly into the main camera. They thought I was losing clarity, but I saw everything perfectly, and now the whole country knows exactly who they are. Behind me, the courthouse doors opened. Patricia emerged, smiling. The restraining orders are filed. It's over. I turned back to the cameras one last time. My name is Felix Roeder. I'm 61 years old. I survived a chemical fire that should have ended me. I earned my medals through sacrifice. I built my life through hard work. And when my own son tried to take it all away, I made sure he lost everything instead. The cameras kept rolling. I'm not a victim. I'm not confused. I'm not declining. I smiled. Cold, final, victorious. I'm exactly who I've always been, a man who fights fire with fire, and I just watched mine burn them to the ground.